All right, good morning, everybody. Okay, this title in itself speaks volumes. Why is the road rough? The road is rough because things have not been done the way they ought to have been done. So, seeing rough involves an assessment, an appraisal in itself of how things are being done. Now, why do we need reforms? We need reforms because automatically we have not hitherto done things the way we ought, or maybe probably ought to have done them. Then automatically, because nature resists change. When you're going in a vehicle and there's a sudden break, everybody complains, hey! Because there's an immediate change in the way of your motion. So there are risks because there will be some form of resistance to change. So you have to assess the risks. The risk portfolio has to be assessed, appraised, and then you have to conceptualize how to overcome the risks. The resistance has to be overcome. The reprisals, because negatives always fight back. So you must be ready for the reprisals that will follow the change that you are conceptualizing and that you are trying to implement. And then in the process of all this, it makes you a resilient leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we'll take you, sir.
Okay, don't worry, after.
So this is how we are going to go about it. When you stand up, you have to introduce yourself so that we...
Thank you, Irom. My name is Bolanle Egamse. For me, before you start looking at the topic, it's like a man going on a journey. You first sit to count the cost, the preparation, and the definition of the journey you're going with. History can never be a mistake. Before you can start on this topic, first look at the definition of the history, because you need to do a comparison. And that is what will define whether what you want to do is right or wrong. Looking at the various definitions of these men that have become a pace setter, you will realize that the history can never be separated from the reform of the road. What is the reform? What is the road? What type of the road? What type of leadership? And what are types of features do you want to? Then the risk you want to do. You need to compare also, because comparison will not let you know whether it's truly a risk or is an achievement. Then when you talk about resistance, what are you trying to resist from? Is it from what is in the back, what is supposed to be, or what is in the future? Because you cannot separate the past from the present, which will also determine the new Nigeria that we are talking about. So becoming a resilient leader is a formation of both the history, the journey on itself, and everything that will feature during that will now be a formation and a determinant of the kind of leadership you want to embrace. Thank you.
Please let's put our hands together for Zegomse.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Professor Taiwo Ojo. I just wanted to talk about something, especially from most of us in this class. You are going to public sector. Private sector is different from public sector. If you want to run reform in private sector, it's very easy. But if you want to run reform in public sector, I got appointed to Bako University board, was it last year? And the thing I've seen for one in the last 6 months was very funny. That's a private university, American value. And people, our culture detests reform. Our culture detests reform because people still want the status quo. So I want to talk about the reprisal, especially from our speaker's experience, because everything we want to talk about here is practical. Those things that you do in class, when you get there, it's different. I do strategy for government, so it's a different ball game. You want development. The people you are dealing with, so you are the only one against 100. So you are stabbed. So you have to have that mindset as you go, to government, because when your best people in private sector get to public sector, that is the essence of this class. Don't go and just keep it somewhere. Your best people in private sector get to the public sector. The country will develop. And a typical example, which is really If you've been to Singapore, go and read it. Lee Kuan Yew. What person he did? He made sure that, most of them, they went to Oxford, Harvard. He made sure that 30% of his public sector leaders follows him on that journey. And he was a dictator. That's what most people don't know. You don't need to be a military man to be a dictator. You capture power so that you can effect the reform. So, because of our emotion, people speak grammar, they speak theory. Things don't move, especially in African context. We do not want development. If you are going to public sector, you can just get there. It's a different ball game. People have diverse mindsets. Why do you think people go there? Adelabu is a first class. He's in power. Fashola was there for 8 years. Did he do anything? So Balaige was there. Did they allow him to do anything? So those are those things that we need to ponder on. So I love the topic, the risk, the repressor, and the resilience. But most women makes better resilient leader than men, especially in our African culture.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we have someone who wants to speak on that.
Okay, thank you. My name is Olabode Bankole. I'm also excited about the topic because what we have seen consistently, not only in Nigeria, around the globe, there can never be successful reforms without roughness. And that's why I like the inclusion of resilient leaders, because that's what we need. Since resilience in itself speaks to our ability to maintain an effective behavior, even in the face of pressure. So the pressure will represent the roughness, the risk, the resistance, and the repressor. Since we are participants in this class, I'm excited because we are here to learn how to be resilient when we are faced with the pressure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. Okay. One thing I like is the fact that I've not had to pick someone who don't want to speak. I'm seeing that people are raising their hands. So after him, I'm going to pick somebody that did not raise their hand. So if you don't want me to speak, you start raising your hand. Immediately, he's done.
Good morning, all. My name is Nnamdi Okafor. In summary, they man understand. What I understand from the term is the courage to confront the status quo. Because if you look at, we all are being trained. And if you look at the military, for example, if you remove resilience in a military officer, it's a civilian. So the courage to build us to face challenge, to confront the status quo when we want change, then the change, every change you must get some resistance to it. There must be an attack, a reprisal. Why do you want to change? The system will react. Whenever you bring anything new, the system reacts. Why is it new? Whether it's good or bad, they will respond. They will try to shift it because we are a sort of, maybe, would I use the word lazy? They adapt to the old system, even when the new system will benefit them. But with the resilience, being trained and being prepared to confront it and to move forward, to bring the change on the people that will later appreciate it, even when you are not there, that's what the team is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking for who is not raising their hand that doesn't want to speak there. All right, ma. Good morning, ma. No, you cannot refuse. You can't refuse. I know I saw the hands and I said that I want somebody that does not want to speak. That person must speak because I'm in charge. At least for now that I'm holding the microphone, I'm in charge. No. Our deal was that when I get to you, you can't refuse me. So, good morning, ma. Let's hear your take on the theme for today. Say something.
My name is John Abidoyi. Temilolu Moreni Keji. Thank you.
All right. So I'll take somebody who is raising their hand now. And then we'll take justice and then one person that doesn't want to speak. In fact, I'll pick someone that has never spoken in class before.
My name is Ono Onyebuchukwu. For me, already the road is rough. And what we're looking at now is how can it be made smooth? How can it be an easy road? And how can we get
Recording stopped.
how can we get to where we want to get to? For a resilient leader to emerge, it must be one who is ready to die. Die to everything, to serve, to everything around you. It must also entail physical death. I remember when I had the opportunity to speak with some very senior leaders, and were to do some things, and one of them said, in politics, you don't say it like this. Which means there's a different thing you can do in politics and another thing outside. And that's what has brought us to where we are. The road is rough because we made it so. And for us to be resilient, and for us to get to where we want to go, we must be ready to die. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Well, reform is, and to compare it with what goes on in private establishment, you wouldn't know the confrontation, the roughness of the road. And it's a practical thing. No matter what we are taught here or anywhere, if you are not involved, you cannot appreciate it. Like I was in the ministry for like 20-something years, no, 34 years. And I had the privilege of working with permanent secretaries, commissioners, as confidential secretary. Except you are in that position of authority where you can actually effect changes. Your subordinates are there to make it as to truncate your efforts. But everything starts, continues, stops with the leader. When Jack Conde was the governor of Lagos State, the permanent secretaries, the commissioners, they had no choice but to line up. Because they knew that governor will not steal. Governor will not embezzle. Jack Conde did not have a private plot of land for the 4.5 years that he spent as governor of Lagos State. That is a leader. So also in our private establishments, I had an experience. Immediately I was appointed, something happened, and I appointed as a judge. And I met a pastor in my chambers on a particular day. And I called the registrar. How did this one get here? My lord, it was somebody, that case that I said you are mad. I'm sorry, please pardon my language. I said you must be out of your senses. You think I'm one of those judges? Or you think because I'm just newly appointed you can pass anything through me? From that day, that registrar worked with me for like 13 years after. She did not make that kind of mistake again. In fact, she would tell them, I cannot deliver your message. So when we kind of leaders that we are trusting God for, transformational leadership, not thieves, we will see changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that we're all geared up for the dialogue here. Opening remarks.
Honorable Minister, just former Honorable Minister, Kemi Adeosun, but we believe that the Executive Director, because former Honorable Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this edition of the CSG Dialogue Series. I'll just be brief so that we'll get brief remarks as well from the Executive Director of University of Lagos Business School, and we'll go straight to the lecture because our guest will not be spending the entire day with us, so we'll need to into the future. Today we have into the future. Today we have a rare kind of speaker. Journey embodies the theme of the dialogue series. Thank you. So we have a rare kind of speaker, one whose life journey embodies the theme of the dialogue series. When the founder indicated his intention to invite our guest speaker for this edition and charged us to develop a theme, what emerged after was the rough road to reforms, the risk, the resistance, the reprisals, and the resilient leader. It was obvious to us that this was a summary of the life journey of the guest speaker. And so we are looking forward to hearing from her. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let us pay attention. But before we go on, I would like to briefly state that we are passed on Mr. Adenrile Onikosi as you continue on this journey, knowing that the nation he believed in, which the founder believes in, will emerge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omo. Right now, we'll be having a goodwill message from the Executive Director, University of Lagos Business School, Professor Adebamowo. Please a round of applause for him as he comes up to give his goodwill address.
The founder, Citadel School of Government, the former Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to mark our 65th independence as a nation, with a keynote address taken by platforms such as this on the future of governance in our nation. The theme of today's dialogue, the rough road to reforms, the risk, the resistance, the reprisals, and the resilient leader, is both profound and deeply relevant. It captures for us, in a very precise time, the lived reality of leadership in times of transformation. Reform, by its very nature, is disruptive. It challenges entrenched systems, unsettles established interests, and demands a rethinking of status quo. And because of this, reforms are really welcome with open arms. It is often resisted, sometimes misunderstood, and in many cases actively opposed. Yet, history teaches us that no meaningful progress has ever been achieved without reform, and no reform has ever succeeded without courageous leadership. The journey of reform is not a straight path. It is a rough road, filled with uncertainties, risk, and difficult choices. Leaders who embark on this journey must be prepared, not only to design policies, but to defend them, not only to envision change, but to endure the pressures that come with implementing it. That is why the focus on resilient leadership is particularly important. Resilient leaders are those who remain steadfast in the face of opposition. They are guided by vision, anchored in values, and driven by a commitment to greater good. They understand that resistance is not necessarily a sign of failure, but often an indication that real change is underway. We at the University of Lagos Business School are deeply committed to raising such leaders. Leaders who are not only intellectually equipped, but also morally grounded. Leaders who possess both competence and character. Our mission goes beyond academic excellence. We seek to develop global leaders who are above all nation builders, individuals who are prepared to take responsibility for shaping the future, particularly in challenging environments like ours in Nigeria. We believe that leadership is not only defined by merely a position of authority, but by the ability to make difficult decisions, to stand firm in moments of uncertainty, and to act in ways that serve the long-term interest of the society. Today's dialogue, therefore, provides an invaluable opportunity to bridge the gap between theory and practice. It allows participants to engage directly with real-life experiences, lessons drawn not from textbooks, but from the front lines of governance and reform. In this regard, we are particularly privileged, ma'am, to have as our keynote speaker, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, whose tenure in public service offers rich insights into the complexities of economic reforms, fiscal discipline, and policy execution in a challenging environment. To the participants, before then, our experiences also speak directly to the theme of today's conversation: the risk, the resistance, the reprisals, and indeed the resilience required to navigate them. That's why we need to listen to her attentively. So, to the participants of ULBS CSG, Advanced Diploma in Public Leadership and Statecraft, I say this to you. You are at a very important stage of your leadership journey. The knowledge you acquire here must not remain theoretical. It must translate into action, into better decisions, into stronger institutions, and more accountable governance. Nigeria, and indeed Africa, needs leaders who are willing to think differently, act boldly, and serve selflessly. You must be prepared to lead, not only in times of stability, but in times of uncertainty. You must be willing to challenge systems that do not work while building new ones that are more effective, inclusive, and sustainable. In closing, let me once again commend the Citadel School of Government and the support, encouragement, everything that we have received from our founder. Please, can we put our hands together for Pastor Tunde Bakare? Thank you so very much, sir. Sir, by fostering this conversation, or conversations such as this, you are not only shaping ideas, you are shaping the future of governance in our nation. It is therefore my sincere hope that today's deliberations will be insightful, thought-provoking, most importantly, transformative. May the conversation we have here inspire practical solutions, bold reforms, and renewed commitment to principled leadership. So on behalf of University of Lagos Business School, I wish you all a very successful, impactful second edition of the CSG Dialogue Series. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, can we have another round of applause for the Executive Director, University of Lagos Business School. So yes, we're moving forward with the program, and up next we'll be having the keynote address. But I would like us to kindly note that immediately after the keynote address, we'll be having the interactive session. So we'll just be running it straight, like at once together. So do we understand? Yes. Yes, I like that response. Do we understand? Yes. Because I need to exercise the power so that I can hand over to the keynote speaker. Right, so in that light, we'll be having a bio. Multimedia will play your bio. We need to play your bio out so that we can hear, and then you come up and give us your amazing keynote address. So, multimedia.
The keynote speaker is an economist, chartered accountant, and finance professional with over 35 years of experience across Nigeria and international markets. with a proven track record of delivery. She served as Nigeria's Minister of Finance from November 2015 to September 2018 and chaired the board of the African Export-Import Bank during her tenure. Prior to that, she served as Commissioner for Finance, Ogun State. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Applied Economics from the University of East London, a postgraduate diploma in Public Financial Management from the University of London, and a Master's in Public Administration from the London School of Economics. She is also a Chartered Accountant, qualified with the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales and the Institute of Chartered Accountants Nigeria. She began her career at British Telecom plc and later held senior managerial roles at PricewaterhouseCoopers. In Nigeria, she progressed from financial controller to managing director at the Chapel Hill Denham Group. She ran her own consulting firm before answering the call to civic duty in 2010. She is the founder of Dash Me Foundation, a social enterprise registered in Nigeria, the UK, and the United States of America. It mobilizes resources for indigenous charities with a focus on orphaned and vulnerable children, youth, and women, for those in need. She is also youth. She enjoys books, old school music, Sudoku, and yam porridge. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we make welcome the keynote
A standing ovation, please.
dialogue series, Mrs. Kemi.
Okay, let me start by thanking and acknowledging the visionary. I don't think visionary leadership captures it. So maybe I should say the visionary actions of Pastor Tunde Bakari. Because to have been in first before we entered the survived the fire was before the fire came. They had already resolved that even if God doesn't deliver us, we're not going to bow. They had already taken their principles before. So I congratulate all of you that are here. Those of you that are sharing from experience, thank you so much. And those of you that are here just in case they call me, I'm ready. That is what we need. Because I'll speak, maybe I'll follow the slides, but maybe I'll just speak from extempo. There's problems of political leadership or political appointment. And that's why I minister forever. I said, that's the first thing I want to debunk. Minister, commissioner, SSA, it's a job. It is not a title. It's not a chieftaincy title that you now carry forever. So when people say to me, Honorable Minister, I always correct them. I say, former. I've been there, I've done that, and I've left this place. But if you carry on carrying the minister, then people just assume it's something to aspire to. It's actually a job. You get in there on day one and you have work to do. And you have limited time. And you have people who don't particularly understand you, are slightly distrustful of you, and understand the system better than you. So from day one, you're against it. So it can't be that we aspire to for its own sake. It's got to be something we aspire to for what it can do. And trust me, it takes 1 year to understand your way around the office. 1 year. 1 year. So I'm going to throw, any civil servants in the house, okay, don't answer this question. Don't answer this question. The front? In 1 day, I've only done one file and there are 30 files. It took me time to understand that, no, when they give you a file, it's from the back to the front. So you start reading from the back, and then you go, and then you see all the various people that have touched that file. sit on that file, and then you get a picture of, okay, so what you want me to approve is this. So it took me time. Nobody told me, and that was intentional. So I took the files home. I took a big box of files home. I read. Then I couldn't finish more than one. And I thought, my God, how am I going to do this work? And then very quickly I realized something that every leader needs. You need allies. You see, if you go in with a takeover mentality, you will fail. It's not I'm not cursing anybody. You will fail. You will fail. And you will fail woefully. Because even in the Bible, even in Scripture, you remember in Exodus 23:30, what did God say? He said, little by little I will drive them out before you. Little by little. It's not, you don't come in there like a takeover. Oh, I've come. There'll be no more stealing in this place. I wish this was Chatham House rules because it's share. But let me just share one thing that happened. And I prayed, please press, don't carry this. I'm just saying this for people to understand. That resistance is also a human. You see, everything you're trying to change, somebody is benefiting from. And we can say that in the sense of, hey, they are stealing. That's so easy. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, it's actually intellectually lazy to think that all people are because they're stealing. No. It's because the system has allowed them certain they don't see it as stealing. You may see it as stealing. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure it is technically stealing. They are benefiting from inefficiencies in the system. And those inefficiencies in some cases have sent their children to school. In some cases are paying their children's school fees. And you now want to take it from them. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to fight. They're going to fight till they can fight no more. Let me give you an example, and it's good that Mr. Segun Oloketuyi is seated because he will confirm this, because he was the MD of WEMA at the time I was Commissioner for Finance in Ogun State. Ogun State, we had 374 bank accounts. Each ministry opens a bank account, and each ministry opens a bank account in each bank. All right, and that was also a function of the banking system. So the bankers used to tell these people, go and open an account. So they would go open an account, ministry of this, then they will open an account in the next ministry. Then all the subsidiaries of that ministry, they will open accounts. So how much money do we have? Nobody could tell me. Because we have 374 accounts. So some accounts had 50 million, some accounts had 500,000. How do you, as an accountant, begin to reconcile them? And then we were borrowing. So I centralized, and it was why I, to some extent, was credited, although it was done at federal level, with TSA. I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every bank, we only want one account per bank. So I had to talk to the bank MDs, nominate a branch. We will have one account for revenue, one account for expenditure, and one investment account. So you nominate which branch we will have, and that's it. No more. All these other accounts, I'm closing them down. So that way, at least every day, I can see my position. I've never seen that kind of fight in my life. I have never seen fights, resistance. They wrote to the governor. Governor called me. What are you doing? I explained. So he said, yeah, it makes sense. Go ahead, go and do it. Don't mind them. They will go, they will come. Some will come into my office, kneel down, crying. Yeah, I have a target. That account is the only one making me to meet my target. So bankers like Mr. Oloketuyi, we had to reach out to them and say, look, you need to find a way internally to reward people. It can't be my problem to have, I can't cope with 370 accounts. The process of merging those accounts, we found some accounts that had money from the military era. Just sitting there, nobody knew. Because, the banks had merged and they had consolidated, and then somebody had an account with, I think it was called National Bank. National Bank became, Mr. Oloketuyi, help me. Which bank? So it was you. No. Became something which became WEMA Bank. So we then wrote to all the bank MDs and said, give us the list of all the bank accounts and their balances. That's where we discovered one balance had been there from the military regime. Just it wasn't much anymore, but it gives you a sense of, the size of the task. But it was tough. It was tough. They fought, they claimed. They came to my office. In fact, after a while, because I was kind of new into the public sector, and I didn't realize that in Nigeria, you know, when you do things, you've already figured out how you're going to beg. You know, begging is part of our DNA. So in fact, I think sometimes people do things deliberately, and they've already identified the person that's going. So one day I came in, because I decided, okay, these people, I can't fight them. I have to become their friend. Because there are more of them than me, and they can frustrate me, and they will continue to frustrate me. So I identified 2, 3 of them and became their friends. And then I bought a rug. I used to come to Lagos every weekend, so I bought a rug and I put it there. That, look, anybody who's coming to beg, so you'll be comfortable, there's a rug. But when you get up from your, I'm going to issue you a query. Because I needed to make sure that that culture of do something deliberately and intentionally and then beg died. So that whatever I say, I mean it. I used to tell them, say, you know, I'm from London. I understand Yoruba very well. And I don't understand begging. I grew up in a country where even you park for 10 minutes, they have gotten you and fined you. That's the system I grew up in. So I don't really understand this. You did something, I said go left, you went right, and you come the next morning with somebody from my village to come and help you. No. Welcome. There's my mat. When you get up, I'll call the PERMSEC. PERMSEC, issue him a query. And so after a while, you know, the reputation kind of rose. This one, just do what she says. So that helped me a lot. Be their friend. Don't be an antagonist. Don't condemn. Understand. But do what you have to do. And do it, you know, do it afraid. So I'll give you another example. I don't know why, it's because Mr. Weme is here that I'm inspired to talk more about the banking things. One of the problems we had in Ogun State, and I was federal, was that we had 9 universities, 9, I think 3 universities, 6 polytechnics in the state. And every month we were paying them subvention. But they were collecting fees, but we couldn't see the money they were collecting. So the same system, I now brought it. I said, okay, we're going cashless. No more checks, no more paying fees by cash. You must pay fees into a designated account with a POS. Then POS had just started. So we rolled out this program with much fanfare. We printed banners. We said cashless. We went round. We printed flyers. We told the students, this is good for you. Nobody will cheat you anymore. And what had happened, and one of the drivers was that during our tenure, a group of students had gone, they used to have to go and pay their fees from Agowoye. They used to have to go and pay their fees in Ijebu-Ode or wherever the nearest bank was. And a trailer cleared bus with 11 final year students who were only on their way to pay their fees. So for us, that was the impetus. That was nonsense. Why would they have to leave where they are to go and look for a bank? No, we can do better. So we started talking to cashless providers, and we selected one. He rolled out the POSs, the infrastructure, and we began to make noise that it's cashless only. And if you don't bring a receipt, evidence in your fee payment, you will not be allowed to write things. One day, we rolled it out. It was going well. We saw an uptick in the revenues. But on a particular Saturday, I woke up, I was just uneasy. You know, sometimes you're just something was wrong, and I didn't know what it was. So I called my accountant general. I said, Pastor, he's a pastor as well. I said, Pastor, what's going on? I'm feeling somehow. He said, no, I don't think there's any problem. They then called me back. He said, there's a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, in Agowoye, the POSs you've deployed are not working. And students are spending 6 hours in the queue when they're supposed to be reading, trying to pay their fees. So Monday morning, which is EXCO, I took permission from the governor. I said, sir, I won't be an EXCO. I need to go to Agowoye. Again, leader, don't send, go yourself. So we jumped in the car. I'd never been to Agowoye. We got there. In fact, when I got there, I thought it was a food bank. I saw a queue snaking around, the students holding their notes. I thought, no, this can't be. So I said, excuse me, what are you doing? They said, we want to pay our fee. I couldn't even identify myself that I'm Commissioner for Finance, so they don't lynch me. That, oh, so you're even the one causing our problems. So I just got back in the car. I called the person in charge. What's the problem? He said, the POSs are not working. I called the POS provider. What kind of POSs have you supplied in Agowoye? He said, Madam, I have supplied over 27 new POSs. Your people are soaking them in water. There is nothing wrong with those POSs. So we were now at an inflection. And I realized two things. If I retreat, that's the end of cashless, right? Because once I can't get it through for the exams, it's done. Once I fail with this, I'll never be able to introduce it again. So I called my accountant, I called my team. I said, what are we going to do? We sat down. We called the provider. The provider said, look, if you can, the only way to do this is to bypass the POSs because your people are the POS operators and they are removing batteries, putting the thing in water. It will not work. So I said, okay, what can we do? He said, we have an online platform. So overnight, we got a canopy. We bought laptops. We bought a small gen. By Monday morning, we told the students, go home. By Monday, we'll solve this problem. By Monday, we got there. We had a canopy. We had gen. We put seats. In, I think it was an hour. I need to check the figures. I think we collected 300. Yeah, but it's TVC. And I want to make an appeal, Pastor. If in future you want me to come here, please let it be Chatham House rules. Then I can tell you what I really want to tell you. Because now I'm just trying to manage. Because TVC, I just put this here, and I don't want. I'm not here for publicity. I'm here to impact, right? So yeah, okay. So please, Pastor. So I'm just going to quickly round up this story because TVC. In fact, let me switch off this thing. TVC, come and carry your thing. I'm not here for you. Pastor called me here. I'm not here for you. Carry your thing. See. Thank you. So on Monday morning, we got there. So was going. In fact, they even brought the POS operator, the company, the payments company, was so happy. They even brought a radio. So booming. And students, in 1 hour, paid fees of 370-something million in 1 hour because they no longer bypass this. And that was a turning point for Ogun State University. If you go there now, because the VC, Professor Saburi, was so forward-thinking, he now saw that, the highest revenue this school has million. I'm seeing 1.7 billion in my account. He started doing the roads, doing hostels, improving the facilities. Now, why am I saying this? I'm not saying this for you to say, oh, how clever she was. I want to tell you what also happened. So that was the celebration, right? Revenue went up by 400%, and we began to be asked to go to explain to other state commissioners how to do this. Then one day my mother, by the way, so by background, my parents left here in the 60s. My dad left in 62, my mum 64. My mum and all my siblings still live in London. And my mum called me one day and she said, hey, what job did you say you are doing? I said, it's Commissioner for Finance. Hey, please, whatever concerns, she mentioned one of the schools, please, just leave them. Some people's children are in Canada and they cannot pay their school fees. I said, Mommy, what's this got to do? How did you even get into this matter? You are in North London. They had traced my mother to tell me to back off. Now, let me explain what we now discovered. And the Awujale of Ijebuland, now late, wonderful man, wonderful principled human being. And God will bless him wherever he is. What did we discover in doing this cashless policy? Because now, every student was identified by their student number. So one, we discovered an entire community of students who had never paid school fees. They had never paid school fees. We also discovered that some students, one teller will be recycled. One person paid, because a lecturer could give a note. Once you prove that you've paid your fees, a lecturer will give a note, allow them to take it. One teller could support 12 students. Then we also discovered some students were in part 4. They paid part 1. They paid part 2. They never paid again because they realized that no one was paying. So Professor Saburi, wonderful man, made a rule. He found a rule in the university's, what's the word? No, there's a word for the universities. Sir, what's the university guiding, there you go. that said that if you hadn't paid fees, any exam you sat, if you hadn't paid fees, you were not a student. And therefore, any exam you sat was null and void. He was cancelling their results. So then the backlash came. They took me, carried my matter to the Abujale of Ijebu land to say that I was disturbing Ijebu students. I don't want them to, that some people are in year part 5 and they've been told to go back part 2 because they hadn't paid their fees. And he stood up. He called a few of them and he said, you. You, he said, you. Did your parents give you the money for fees? Say yes. What did you use it for? I did party, I did, okay. He did a good sampling to understand the problem. And then he told the Professor Saburi, please go ahead. Anybody that your parents gave you, not that you could not afford the fees, you were given money and you chose not to pay. That is what will teach them a lesson. So we now had people that were in part 5 going back to repeat part 2. So that was another outcome of that reform. But the most interesting one was something more institutional. What we didn't understand was, for 5 years, they were not graduates. Some students couldn't get their certificates. I think if you remember that problem. And we didn't understand the reason. The reason was that NUC, for every course, will issue a certain allocation of students, maybe 50 for a particular course. They, I'm not naming them, they will onboard 70. Their logic being that some will drop out, some will fail. So now at the point of graduation, they can only issue 50 certificates. So that's where we now, with student number, began to discover that some the student number they had used, someone had graduated with that student number years back. So that's why there was no way that person could get certificate. Professor was wonderful. He cleared the backlog and then we were able to align the system. So now with your student number, no one else can use your student number and that's the number you use all the way. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this to show you how institutional inertia operates. It's not as simple as some people are stealing. Like I say it again, it's a lazy way of thinking. It's lazy. Stealing is when you go, I see pastor's phone, I grab it, I run away. Institutional inefficiency is different from stealing. Institutional inefficiency replicates it. So you see, if I'm not a thief, you can't make me a thief. But if institutional inefficiency allows certain things, it becomes learned behavior because the training is seen by doing. It's what I saw PermSec do, it's what director will do, and it's what director, and it goes all the way down. So what did I learn? I learned little by little. I learned it the hard way. Because honestly, when we got to the university on that Monday morning and I saw the canopy, students were even done. I knew in that moment that if that thing hadn't worked, I was gone. I was gone. I wouldn't be given an opportunity to explain what I was trying to do and how people had soaked POSs in water. Nobody was going to listen to that. I was gone. So when you're reforming, remember, do your scope. Who are the people that are going? So the ones that reached out to my mother, when my mother was even, the way my children here, that, Mum, I haven't done anything that is outside of the rules. My mom, as far as my mum was concerned, are you not finance? What concerns you in school? And then she gave me a long lecture. You know, you don't understand Nigeria. That's how Nigerians are. Just leave them or do your finance. I said, no, Mummy, my finance cuts across. There's no way. But for, so for her and for the person who was bold enough to find her, they felt aggrieved. They said, okay, even if you want to do it, why didn't you give them notice? So at least they will be able to organize themselves and they have children abroad. But it's a logical argument. Why? Because institution, I don't even know why I bothered with these slides. They're good slides. I feel led to just speak. Institutional inertia has a root. It has a root. Some of it may be spiritual. I know many of you are Christians, but some of it is just human. It's just human. Someone has a child in Canada, and someone asks her, please, can you enroll 5 extra students? And those 5 extra students are paying 100,000. That's 500,000. She changes it into Canadian dollars and she sends it to her child who's saying, I'm about to starve. So it may not be morally right, nor ethically right, but that's reality. And when you go into politics, you must deal with reality. It's not theory. Don't go in there to preach. I've said this, and I get in trouble when I say it, but I'll say it anyway. Some of the most incompetent people I've ever worked with were Christians. Coming in the morning, good morning, ma. To God be the glory, ma. Hallelujah, ma. Thank God for the salvation of my soul, ma. We bless the Lord, ma. It's okay. How far with that thing I gave you to do? Ma. The issue really is this. But the Lord has taken control. When am I getting this project? This is not a matter of to God be the... God always gets the glory, but don't over-spiritualize this thing. Don't use spirituality as a cover for incompetence. It doesn't work. You have to work. You have to do the work. You have to get up in the morning. When you finish praying, you open an eye. You're praying with an ear open to hear from God, but you're doing the work. You're Nehemiah on the wall. You're not sitting around saying, God is done it, God will take control. In fact, the most useless persons, very spiritual, highly spiritual, useless. Useless. So don't get confused. Because God has anointed you, it's not an anointing for laziness. It's an anointing that takes you further, but it's based on how much you put in. If you're not ready to do the work, it can't work. It just won't work. Secondly, I would say that if you're a reformer, prove your concept. Prove your concept. Fire bullets before you fire cannonballs. Little by little. I'm trying to break it down for you. Little by little. I have a wonderful idea. Prove it. Because once you have the data is hard to argue. If you notice, when I was minister, I was always throwing data. I would go out and say, well, this is the number of barrels of oil Nigeria producing, this is our population. And this is Kuwait, and this is her population. And this is another country. So when you see it as a graph, there's not much to argue. But if you just keep on shouting, no data, nothing of substance, you just become a clanging cymbal. They will soon put you aside. But if you come armed with data, if you come armed with the proof of your concept, you can take on anybody. You really can. Let me just go quickly then to my slides. People that help me with the slides will not feel that I ignored them. Okay, I'm not sure. It's moving. Okay, so let's go. Okay, let's talk about this, which is my context. And some of you may... Oh, it's gone. Okay. 2016... oil price collapsed, $28 per barrel. And our cost of production was 22. And and most governors could not pay salaries. And so, again, I want to be practical. So when governors can't pay salaries, those of you who in future will become commissioner for finance, let me give you this hint. When your governor cannot pay salary, you disappear. It's as simple as that. I am friends with a lot of people today who were fellow commissioners because when there was no money, when we go to FAC and we see the figure, we'll find one cheap hotel in Abuja and all of us will sit down there. So that when the union come to ask the governor, Governor, you've not paid salaries, the commissioner is in Abuja. We are in an Airbnb, all of us, because we didn't have money, hiding. That's how it works. Because once you arrive, and of course the civil servants know when you arrive, because they control the system. They have already texted the union to say, she's back, oh. So let the governor not say that there's no money, so I'll be there. And I was the only female commissioner. So I'll be there. They will be sharing rooms because there was no money. 2 to a room. Undo or your, they pair up. That's, the state. But I'll be on my own. Then in the morning, we come down, we eat the buffet breakfast. We eat enough because we didn't have money. And then we go and hide. We hide until we're able to come back with an answer. So in this era, because I was now minister and I knew what it meant, having been a commissioner, I had to call the president, say, Mr. President, if out of 36 states, only Lagos is paying salary, this country will collapse. It is when the civil servant gets their salary, they pay school fees, the person running the private school pays the landlord, the people selling textbooks, you know, it's a chain. It's a chain. So I now had to break it down for him and say, Your Excellency, if we leave this situation, the country will collapse. Because once and remember, this is Lagos where the impact of state government is not as strong. In some states, the only business is the state government. And so once the state government, some state governors were owing 6 months, some were owing 8 months' salary, and the commissioners were all hiding. They will come to my office every day, just come to greet me. So, and some of them will ask me, please speak to my governor. They will hold the phone, then I will speak to the governor, because they have to prove to their governor that they are working. Some governors were calling me from Saudi. They had taken off, because that's the way you will not pay salary. Now, the governor has traveled, so which salary? It's only him that can sign, so they've taken off. So the country was in crisis. And we had, the IMF then came and said, the best thing for you now is an IMF program. Now, as an individual, I've always believed that the solution to your problem must come from within. It can't come from without. So when they came with their program, austerity, I said, but we'll give you money. And when we give you this money, you clear all your arrears, you'll be able to stabilize yourself. I just looked at them and I told them, I'm still friends with Christine Lagarde. I said, my problem with the IMF is that everywhere all its patients die. If IMF was a doctor, they would have removed their license, because the prescription they give, yes, it cures, but it kills. And it would destroy so many people in Nigeria if we go down this route. So I said, we're going to go our own route. We are going to do what we call counter. That is, there's no money, let's pump money into the system. We will pump money into the system, we'll clear arrears, get the economy moving. Because if the economy is like if it goes down to a certain level, to restart it will be very difficult. So IMF was saying, contract, stop spending, lay people off, float your naira, and then your economy will recover. We were saying, no, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to leave the naira as it is. We're going to pump money into the system. We're going to do roads, do projects, get people moving again, get the confidence back. And then our prayer, and it was really a prayer, was that the oil price will recover. By the time the oil price recovers, we'll be able to stabilize. And that's actually what we did. I think I have a slide somewhere that talks about, yeah. But at the same time, I said that we would trim our costs. So that's when I started doing the efficiency unit. We will sort out our problems on the payroll, because our payroll was our biggest cost. I'd had a program called IPIS. IPIS required each person to bring their biometric. And the program had been going on for, I think, about 6 years. And they had only been able to capture about 30% of the civil servants. Why? All the paramilitary refused to cooperate. If they go to police, because they were contracted, to actually arrest them in the cell. And then those ones will, how much are you paying me to come and capture the biodata of police? They just run away. Army refused. Civil defense refused. So it was a standoff. The only people they had captured were the civil servants, the desk civil, who were nobody. And we knew this figure looks bloated. So what did we do? I remembered at that time we were doing TSA, BVN. And I remember that I had gone to GTB to do my capture. And I said to myself, but in England, I've only ever done my fingerprints once. Surely this data, if it's been captured for BVN, why can't we use it to clean the payroll? So I called Adeosun, who was then NIBS. They said NIBS has the data, so I called him. I said, data, can I access it? He said, yes. I said, but I can't give it to you. You give me your own data, and then, so I said, okay, BVN is recent. That means for somebody to have a BVN account, you were alive at some point in the last 6 months. Okay, let's run our payroll against BVN. So anytime we see duplicates, we know that means one person is collecting more than salary. That was actually how, when the noise went about 45,000 ghost workers, it was that program. So once we did that, we now had proof. So once we got the proof, we saw that, okay, one account, one BVN-linked account has 7 salaries. We began to check. Now, I'm just saying this so you understand the process. So we had data. I didn't go out and start shouting. I didn't. I had to now drill in to confirm, is this data correct? Because sometimes you could make mistakes. And if I've gone to make mistakes, I knew that from my organs, I will not be able to contain it, because this was police, this was army. By the way, during this period, I was held up at knife point. In my house, we woke up, the police that were assigned to look after me were asleep, and a knife. They broke into our house and held a knife. In fact, it was then that President Buhari said, we need to increase this lady's security, but that's an aside. So what did we do? We took the data and we began to test. So if we see go and find that person. Then we wrote to the agency concerned, is this person your staff? The agency will write back, no, this person is dead, or this person transferred. In fact, we had so much fun with it. We had one lady, she was so funny. She was part of the sample. She was a nurse in Federal Medical Center in Jos, and then she moved to the teaching hospital. But she was continued to collect. So when they called her, so I called, it was then Magu. Magu went, and I said, Magu, get me a sample. Just give me a sample. These 20, go and investigate them. Let's find out what's really going on. Then when they called her, she said, what do you mean? That she used all her body to work in Jos. So if they want to reward her with 2 salaries, is it written anywhere that she should? Where is it written that it's illegal to collect that? She really worked for them, and they appreciate her. So they've continued to pay her, and her new job also is paying her. So what is wrong in that? And in fact, she sent the EFCC package. Say, you people are not serious. It's they employed you for. Go and catch the people stealing big money. Is it my 80,000 a month that is the problem of Nigeria? But that's just an aside. It was just very fun. But the point is, we proved that what the data was telling us was correct. Once we did that, there was no stopping. After that, President Buhari just said, once I went to him and I showed him all the letters, because we wrote to each agency, please confirm the following person is your staff. PERMSEC will write back, no. And so President then said, called the police. You don't have a choice. Go on to IPIS. And that's how we were able to clean up the payroll. I don't like the term ghost workers because it's not actually accurate. Sometimes it was people had died. Sometimes people had moved, and the system just wasn't efficient. There were not enough controls around, because people like this idea of there were some ghost workers. There was a little cartel, I think they went to jail, that were collecting money from people and they would add them to the payroll. But the controls now caught them, because we then require that every month the permanent secretary off. And I can assure you, I'm sure the permanent secretaries don't sign off anything easily. So the permanent secretary will then put pressure on the director. I'm not signing this thing until you sign it. And then the director, so all the way down, there was pressure on payroll. People had to make sure that. And then, we were able to reduce our payroll costs. So I've lost my train of thought. I was also going to talk a little bit about whistleblower policy, because that's another one where we got a lot of resistance. People were actually very scared. They said, that's how people will just go and be reporting. Husbands will be reporting wives, and they always accuse women. Wife will be reporting husband. How do you know? How will you be sure that what they're reporting is true, that it could be used maliciously? So the young lady that actually wrote the whistleblower policy was at the time 28. I just said, look, go and research this thing. So she went. We got in touch with the British and about 4 other countries, Australia, that have it and it's embedded, and learned from them. And then we brought her. So we have 3 levels of check. So it's not that you just malign somebody and then we go and pick the person up. There were 3 levels of verification before we will now move. And it was an extremely successful policy. Why? Because suddenly, if you were doing something in your office, you had a problem, because you either have to include everybody, or you run the risk that one of them, and the reward was 5%. So one of them may figure out that, look, you go and do it. I'm waiting for you with whistleblower. I'm sure you remember the $40 million that was found in Ikoyi? Yeah, was whistleblower. And why did he blow the whistle? Because when the money was being carried in, he was a security guard. He sat in my office when we wanted to get his, because he was illiterate. So they brought about 5 different bank accounts. And each time we checked the BVN and said, this is not the whistleblower. We can't pay this person. So I said he should come to my office. He came. He couldn't write first. His bank was First Bank. He was asking me, how do you spell first? So I said, no, you have to write it with your own hand, that this is the account into which you want the money paid. But what had happened was the person that was bringing the money in was calling him to come and carry. So he was helping her to carry. So in the process, of course, he could feel, he thought it was Naira. It was when we got there, we found out it was dollars, and it was paid. And yeah, so there was a lot of resistance to that policy, a lot of fear. What have I learned? I wish I could come up here and tell you that everything I did was good. Whistleblower policy no longer exists. Why? I didn't institutionalize it. That was a mistake. And I recognize that now. We should have waited and done a law. A policy that doesn't have any backing, someone can just come in tomorrow. Throw that, where's that a stupid file? Throw it aside. And so the progress that was made was lost. But then, from me, I've learned a lesson. Anything you do, and I tell this to people, institutionalize it. It's harder work, and I'm an impatient person, so I like to, let's just get on with it. Let's just do it anyhow. Let's just prove the concept. Let's go. But if we had had a whistleblower law, that would still be running. It's difficult to change a law. It's easy to blow away a policy. So if you do have a chance to effect anything, try to institutionalize it, is what I would say. Don't be, that's me being extremely honest about what I've learned. And I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, so let's talk about resistance. I've talked about institutional resistance. I've talked about using technology. Technology today is your friend. If you're a reformer, technology is your friend. Be a friend of AI. Fall in love. Spend 10 minutes a day. Download the free ones. Just try. See what it can do. Yes. Yeah. I have 10. I don't need 10 minutes. I'm winding up. Yeah. So, and the other thing is media and narrative. Always inform. Always inform, and never assume that people understand what you're doing. Informing is very, very important in policy. And that informing is not just the public. It's not just the press. It's also your stakeholders, your team. Because if your team actually don't understand what you're doing or where you're trying to take them, they can't go with you. So constantly informing and constantly explaining. And the truth is, if you can't explain it, then why are you doing it? It can't be that I prayed, I heard from God, and this is where we're going, and nobody can ask you a question. That's poor leadership. You will not carry anybody along with you with that. But when everybody gets the memo, and sometimes it's just courtesy. You're the leader, the boss with you. You don't have to carry them along, but it makes your job easier when everybody's aligned, when everybody feels part of it. And then once you've done that, and again, this is a challenge I sometimes have with our people, because I'm used to meetings where you don't need to buttress, anything gets done. So carry people along, but be disciplined about it. And democracy doesn't apply to everything. There's a reason, for example, why China has developed the way it has. China's an autocracy. The Chinese government wake up in the morning and decide the whole of this Ikeja needs to be leveled. It's gone. And to some extent, at certain stages of development, that's what you need. Because when you try and carry everybody along, you'll be shocked at the kind of pushback that you get. Pushback that doesn't make any sense. Pushback that sometimes is just emotional. Pushback that is not sensible. I can remember when Governor Amosun was doing the road projects, and they were demolishing. And they told him that, no, you can't demolish because some people buried their parents in their compound, and you are demolishing where the ancestors are buried. So the ancestors are buried somewhere, so we will not expand roads. But he, to his credit, would go out and meet them and plead with them. Hey, Joe, we want to do the road. Hey, Joe, allow us. Hey, Joe, we'll rebury your ancestors' bones somewhere else, you know. But that was a good, you know, strategy. If you just, so sometimes you have to be a bulldozer, but you have to be a bulldozer that is compassionate. Not compassionate to the point where you don't get anything done, no, but to the point that you recognize people's reactions. Because we're, you know, Nigeria is not a entity. Government is not, it's people. When they say the government are lazy or the government are still, it's people. They get up every morning, they go to work. And they are comfortable doing things a certain way. Now you've come along, the first thing you announce is that everybody is a thief. They already hate you. The second thing you announce is that you are the one to come and correct it. They hate you even more. And then when you say, and I'm starting now, all they are going to do is sit down and figure out how to frustrate you. And that's why reformers fall. They will sit down, they will have a meeting, they will appoint a chairman. You do this, you do that. Let me end with a little story. A lot of my stories are from Ogun State, but that's where I learnt, that's where I cut my teeth. So when I came in, I was very naive. So all those things I said not to do is what I did. So I announced myself. See, I come from England, we don't do things this way. Anyway, but God helped me. So because I had also been advised that you have to make friends with some of them, just, you know, break their ranks. So there was one particular young lady who was expecting, and I saw her and I thought, oh, as a woman, you know, oh, when are you due? She now had a very sad story that she was pregnant and the father of the child was married and didn't want her. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry, that's so sad. Okay, so how are you preparing for, she hasn't bought anything because the man has, okay. And I remember then my youngest child was 5. So I still had his baby things under the stairs. And I kept on thinking, who am I going to give them to? So I just said, oh, okay, don't worry, I have some things at home. So the next week, because I used to come back to Lagos every weekend, I brought my baby, he's not my baby, he's 20 now. I bought his sterilizer and his bath, just a few things, and I gave them to her. And they then jumped on her immediately. Are you part of us or you're not part of us? Anyway, so what had happened was they had this petty cash amount, and it looked quite a lot. So I said, what is this money spent on? They said, newspaper, this, that. Okay, but the story wasn't making sense. So I issued a roll with all my powers. I said, from now on, nobody should touch that petty cash without my signature. I said, okay, ma. You know they will never argue with you. I said, yes, ma. And they went. So the next day was FAC. So I was due to go to Abuja. So I organized myself. And truly, they complied, though. They would come, ma, want to buy. In fact, they would do it in a very annoying way. They would come in, ma, I want to buy a newspaper. I will sign. They would go, come back, ma, I want to buy toilet roll. Because I was also determined that, don't worry. So the following week, I had to go to Abuja for FAC. God help me. So this girl, so apparently they had their own meeting. That when she goes to FAC, well, there's a particular toilet that if it's blocked, the smell will reach governor's office. So they were going to go and block that particular toilet so that feces would now overflow. The toilet had this functional problem. The feces would now overflow into the corridor. And then when they ask, they will say, commissioner said, so this girl was in the meeting. I think you know where I'm going. I just got a text. So I called them. Afterward, they started calling me Ajay. I called them. I said, I'm off to Abuja, but I'm thinking, I don't want anything to happen whereby maybe the toilet gets blocked and you won't be able to access the money. So whilst I'm away, please, anything that needs to happen, just do it and I will sign retrospectively. That's when they said I was Ajay. And my mum goes to a white garment church. They then came up with a theory. It used to be very funny. And my mum has this habit. My mum used to call me during work time. So I tried to discipline her. I said, Mummy, between 9 and 5, don't call me because someone's paying me for work. But from 5, you can call me. So, old people, 5:01, if my phone goes, it's my mum. So the rumor then went that, 5 o'clock, the mother calls from London. So the mother is the one telling her all the things you are planning. So I used to notice that 4:50, I would be looking for them. Where is so? Say, the person standing in front of you. That was how I knew they were planning to block and well, now they know the story. But what am I saying? I'm saying be a reformer with a heart. Be a reformer with a purpose. And be a reformer that knows how to pick your fights. Don't go in there thinking you can fight everybody. You will lose. They will defeat you. The Bible said little by little, lest the beasts of the field become too many for you. They will come back at you and finish you. So I'm going to stop here because I am tight with time, and I'm told that there's to be a question and answer, a few questions. A few, very few questions. And if you ask political questions, I will not answer them. I'm just letting you know. I'm not here to campaign. I'm not here to criticize anybody. I'm here to share practical knowledge that I hope that when they call you, you'll be able to step up with your full chest and say, yes, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm prepared. I've been on a course at Citadel School of Government. I know that a file starts from the back. And even that, knowing that a file starts from the back is enough for you for today. That's even enough to give Pastor Tunde Bakare a round of applause for. When you walk in there and they give you the file, say, here's the file, man, you turn to the back. Do you know you've already disarmed some people? Like, So she knows the file starts from the back. And, you're already moving up. So let me close by saying, first of all, a really big thank you to Pastor Tunde Bakare. Actually, today I have another appointment. But Pastor Tunde Bakare is one of those people that I can't say no to. So that's why I'm here. And I want to, I'm not a prophet. But I want to say something. I feel that, with Pastor Tunde Bakare, he's been in politics and then he's not been in politics. But I feel that, sir, influence is more powerful than position. I feel that I need to say that to you, sir. Influence is more powerful. The most powerful people today in government do not hold any position. No. Go and ask. They don't even have a business card. So I would say seek influence. Seek influence. Position is subordinate to influence. Even as minister, you have power. You don't have any power. You have a boss. And some of those bosses do or not do. So don't seek influence. Seek influence. Seek influence. Not relevance, influence. Because you can be relevant but have no influence. In other words, you may know all the answers. Because the Bible talks about a poor man whose wisdom saved a city. Of what use was that? But seek influence. Right? Joseph was more influential than Pharaoh in his own kingdom. So seek influence. There's nothing wrong with influence. And influence may be you're a secretary. But you decide what file goes onto the minister's table. Do you know how powerful secretaries are? Some people just say, I'm just a secretary. No, you're not. I'm just a clerk. No, you're not. Do you know clerks that staple files under chair? Do you know how long I've spent in my life as minister looking for a file? Where is the file? We don't know, sir. Where is the file? We don't know, sir. We turn the whole office upside down looking for a file. One little girl, one tiny little clerk that's annoyed with her boss has hidden it under a chair. So that's influence, right? Because without the file, I couldn't do anything. When the file now came out.
Thank you for telling us so much about yourself. About your time in office. We've learned so much as leaders, as public leaders. I'm from the public sector. She's from the private sector. And I think you've answered quite a number of questions. For instance, now I know why reforms could be painful. And thank you for sharing your lessons so that leaders can also learn, so that we don't make the same mistakes as we take on influence, as we seek influence. So we'll go quickly into this session. I'll yield to Ogechi to take questions from those on site.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. Our online distinguished participants, we're glad to have you here. And moving on to the question and answer session for Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, would like to have your questions so that we can delve in. But just a brief housekeeping rules I would like to share. Yeah, so please let's keep the questions brief because of time. Yes, and like Mrs. Kemi Adeosun has said, please let's ask non-political questions since she's not already going to answer any of them. Thank you. So let's not take that time so that we can save our time and ask very relevant questions. So thank you. The floor is open for questions. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bolanle Edwards. Thank you, ma'am. That was very, very instructive. And I must say that it has also built our confidence that after we're done here, we'll go out with more confidence to go and do what we've learned. Very practical, I must say. However, with all that you've said, with the interventions you had at the state level and federal, would you say that you have any regrets? That's my question. Would you say that you have any regrets? That's my question. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Wafashida, and this is my question. From your earlier speech and everything, you said you had just one regret, if I may speak to that, which is your understanding that you never institutionalized the policy of whistleblowing. Now that you have the opportunity, if you ever have the opportunity, how would you have done it, knowing very well that those who are going to help you institutionalize it are part of those people who are for part of the against the reforms of that policy you're bringing aboard? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ma. Thank you so much for the impactful message you get to us. My question is this. You gave an analogy of the time oil price was $28, and you were making some reforms at the center and trusting God for. Now, assuming that the oil price went further below $20, what could you have done? Well, that is one. Two, your success is standing. I don't need to get it more from you. I can do some research and get it. My question is this. Within yourself, what are those things, the steps you took then that were not successful? Can you tell us so that we learn from it and the correct way to read?
I can take those. Okay, yes.
My name is Timothy Giola. My question specifically is on your experience regarding, we know Nigeria is a very culturally diverse and complex society. How were you able to navigate the issue of tribalism? Because if I look at what actually happened that led to your leaving the office, if it is to be people from other tribes, that may possibly not happen. I don't want to mention any particular thing. So what were the challenges because of that you see relating to tribalism, and how were you able to even navigate it between that short period of time?
Okay, I'll take this. Can you hear me? Am I heard? Question. I mentioned it, that I regret not.
We got tired of having our biometrics taken over and over for BVN, for NIN, for this and for that. So as a public leaders and for statecraft, how were you able to maintain integrity and to keep all these distractions at bay? Because I know that many distractions came at you though personal, the NYC issue, which you have gone out to clear and the court has sorted. How were you able to stay focused and keep your integrity?
Okay. Integrity is personal, right? And the integrity is not black or white, and it's a scale of grey. So you are who you are, and you don't change. I don't think office changes people. I think who you are will be revealed when you become, when you are in. I think I started by saying that the men in the fire survived the fire because they had already taken a stance before the fire came. So it's who you are when you went in will be revealed when you get there. And for me, that was it. I was always who I was. This is me. I don't allow anyone to carry my handbag. I'm who I am. So focus on being you. I think the problem with a lot of people is they're focusing on when I get there. But it is who you are today that will be there. So focus on being a better you, a more knowledgeable you. Have you read everything in your field? Do you know everything there is to know in, you're a lawyer. Are you in touch with what's going on in Canada, in Australia, in different places? What do you have to bring? Because I think a lot of people focus on getting there. And I would say focus on being ready so that should you get there, you'll be the best you can be.
Thank you for that. You pointed out in your lecture that as a reformer, you should prove your concept. You should come with data, evidence-based research, and you also advised us to pick our battles. So now we go online and we'll check if there's any question online. We'll be taking one question online. Have questions online. So we'll take 2 more questions from the floor. Okay.
Thank you so very much. This was a most insightful, impactful lecture. Thank you. It is the lot of social founder. I greet you, sir. Thank you. My name is Dr. Adegoke. I have Dr. Adegoke Oshuni. I have the privilege to be one of the facilitators in this institution. It is the lot of sociologists to go beyond the veneer to find the causes of these institutional deficiencies that you euphemistically used in place of the usual terms of stealing and corruption. Now, to go beyond the veneer, to query the causes, the underlying causes of these things, because you spoke so well in a compassionate manner about the man that needs to pay or the lady that needs to pay students' fees in Canada. So to find, because with Nigeria, we're trying to query the system. We're trying to implement reforms that will change our country. We're trying to see how we can make governance better and have a better society. So to go beyond the veneer of what causes this institutional deficiency, what's your take? Because the policeman that is taking money on the road is capitalizing on some form of institutional deficiency. Maybe the checks and balances are not in place, etc. But what makes him do it? Why don't we go a bit further? What can we correct? Is it the earning portfolios that are too low, or what is because finance is at the bottom, at the heart of all these deficiencies. That's fanning all the deficiencies is finance. In your quiet moments, I was hoping that I looked for maybe a book that you may have written. I have not seen any online. So you've had a career in public administration, both in studying and in implementation. So I just want to hear your take on what these underlying causes may be. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Thank you, Ma, for that insightful talk, sir. Ma, please, my question is this. You talk about the reform that was taken or that was done by you while you were Commissioner for Finance in Ogun State and at the same time as a Minister of Finance. And I believe, according to you, it was because you had the support of both the governor at that time and the president. That was why you could boldly take those steps. My question is this, man. What will you advise a person serving under a leader that is indifferent to status quo, or who even supports the action of those people that you are trying to fight against? Will you advise that person to at the time resign, or also try to rather challenge his boss? Because I know you cannot make a reform without the support of the person you are serving under. Some of us come here with a mindset to transform this country, and we have some ideas. We feel it in the form before we come here, and we are with what we have learned from some of our facilitators, like Professor Taiwo Ojo and many others. We are, intoxicated with the desire to make a change. But when we get there and we don't have the support of our leaders, what will be done? Thank you, man.
Thank you. I think I had actually answered that question, but let me restate what I said. If you come in as a reformer, you have to come in walking with a lot of wisdom. You have to understand the terrain. You have to understand how to play the game. You can't come and say, well, I mean, there are many, many ideas. An idea is not actually a reform. Which reform are you going to champion, and how are you going to influence those who make the ultimate decision? And I gave a roadmap. You must have a concept. I've seen people come in. I'll give an example. Gave a massive presentation to Mr. Governor about how they were going to reform education. They brought some tablets to reform education. They showed us wonderful things on a tablet that you press. You won't even need a teacher. Solar is this, is that. The teachers are there were over 45,000 teachers in state government employment. What are they going to do when this your wonderful idea comes and displaces them? So sometimes ideas need to be seasoned, and then package your idea and test it. Does it work? Because I may think something, I only listed the successes. I've had many ideas that fell at the first hurdle. In fact, it failed so woefully that I can't even tell you, because if I tell you now, you'll laugh. You think, how could you have thought that would work? So I would say learn the terrain, learn influence. And influence is not aggressive, because leaders are human. If you come, and I gave you my example that I came and I thought I was ready to save the world. I thought I was a redeemer of some description. I've come here to rescue everybody. Nobody will steal. Nobody will do this. Nobody will do that. And if they had blocked that toilet, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you now, because maybe the governor would have taken a view that this stupid woman from England doesn't understand how to manage human beings. How can they block the toilet and, she's incompetent? Maybe, and that was something I thought I was doing genuinely. I'm stopping you people from stealing. You're wasting the money. But look at what happened. And I could give you another example, but I won't, because we're on camera. But yeah, let's leave that. So I could give you many examples. And the other question was about, sorry, I forgot the...
Your resignation. Would you advise someone who doesn't have the support of his leader?
No, I don't think that was the question. I think it was the other question about... Yes. So that's a very deep question, Professor. And we don't have enough time. But let me just say this. There are prisons in UK. There are prisons in America. There are prisons in Canada. There are corrupt public servants in all of those countries. There are corrupt policemen, corrupt immigration in every country, including my country. That is, I have two countries, my country England, my country Nigeria. And I think there's a problem in Nigeria, because I think some of the things we see, we think that they are unique to Nigeria. And we've kind of owned them as if it doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. I grew up in a borough called Islington. Islington had two prisons in one borough, women's prison, men's prison. They're still there. They've been there from the Victorian times. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I don't want us to think that some issues are uniquely Nigerian. they're not. I used to be a fraud investigator in the UK, and I investigated fraud in the public service. You'll be shocked at what happens there. So why does the policeman take a bribe? Why does the chicken cross the road? Which, you know, it's a question that has no beginning and no end. The whys, I think what we should focus on is how can we strengthen our systems? That's really, you know, and the truth is, human nature being as it is, when you block one hole, they will move somewhere else. That's the way of the world. It's the way of the world. When you block one hole, another one will open. But the question is, are you constantly reforming in order to block those holes? Are you reforming in order to change people's behavior? And once you are, you know, eventually the policeman will have to stop, because maybe they will go cashless and say, okay, if a policeman stops you, you have to pay with a cashless, I don't know, with POS. I don't know. But I think we should stop thinking that because what you're describing is human behavior. And human behavior is common across the world. People find ways around things. People have a money motive. People exploit loopholes. And that's human behavior. And human behavior has not changed from Bible days. So the question is, are we building institutions that are strong enough to begin to correct human behavior?
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll take question online now, but while we get ready for that, I would like to ask, what are the biggest risks? We're rounding off now. We're rounding up. What are the biggest risks that you consider that reformers face? Is it policy risk, political, legal, reputational, or even security risk?
Are you saying risk for the leader or risk? Sorry,
For the leader, as a reformer, what would you consider the biggest risk?
I mean, I don't think there can be one, because one size will never fit all. In certain circumstances, it may be just the leader. In other circumstances, it may be the institution, the civil servants, and others, it may be technology. But I think what you do have to do is assess your risk. I think that's the way. Risk can never be eliminated. I come from a risk management perspective. We teach that you cannot eliminate risk, but you can mitigate it. And to mitigate risk, you must understand it. What are my risks? Okay, I'm doing this policy. Who is going to be disadvantaged? Identify. How will they be disadvantaged? Okay, what can I do to mitigate them? And if I can't mitigate them, how do I intend to manage them? What you shouldn't do is just jump into something, not having looked left or right, not having understood the dynamics. That for me is it's a recipe for failure and discouragement. No matter how well you are, you will still fail if you don't go through the basics of understanding human beings. So I think are we stopping
Thank you
there?
very much. We'll be rounding up now for this. Okay, we would like to yield to the founder to help us round up this session properly. We'd like to have your thoughts.
Did you hear what I just said? As I see me see trouble. I came here to receive you and to listen to the lecture, and they are now asking me to round up. What would I add to that brilliant lecture? There's nothing more to add. But let me share why I suggested to the executive director to invite you. The day the news broke about NYC, I came to see President Buhari, and you were going in, and the newspaper plugged the two journeys. They were separate journeys. You were going to see the president. I was coming to see the president. And this sort of Pastor Bakari has showed up with Mr. Adeosun to go make appeals to the president. I said, how can they put two people? But God has a way of linking people. It could be trouble, it could be celebration, it could be anything. Because of what they insinuated, I decided to be personally interested and to be sure that it was difficult to even call you when you were in England. I tried several times. Look, everybody is not against you. I am not. And after a while, I was able to speak to her. I am so thankful to God that she won the case in court. I'm so thankful to God. I'm so thankful to God. I will not stand here to say what already said to me. It's not alive about the situation. It's gone. And you can query him. But he asked me a question. Just one question. I'm not tribalistic, but a question among others, why are your people like this? I don't know what I'm saying, why are Christians like this, or why are Yoruba people like this. I will add two things to show you the kind of person that Adeosun is. Whistleblowing, getting money from abroad. I knew nothing. I didn't do any contract with any government. I've never done. But on this occasion, one of us here reached out to me that they've been asked to bring money, Abacha loot, to Nigeria. And they will need assistance. I went to Mr. President. Is this genuine? Thank you for the word on influence. It was influence that brought me into politics, and I still retain that influence, and I recognize it better and greater than power. I went to Mr. President, and I said, yes, but no down payment or whatever they call it will be given to them. If they bring it, they will collect 5%. And he wrote in red. Based on that, I called Mr. Oloketri to give loan to the individual so that they could do the thing. They did the business, they brought the money back, and one of the leaders, I don't want to mention names, wrote a proposal to stop payment to those people. I thought it was Mr. Adeosun that was sitting on the money. It was at my mother's funeral, if you remember. I said this and this and that. He said, oh, this person is the person who said we should not pay. I said, okay. I took the matter back to Mr. President. Mr. President overruled the person who said so and instructed you to pay, and you paid promptly. And my name went into all kinds of things again, as if the benefit came to me. I want to thank you for the payment you made. Let me tell you another bad role I played. Extremely bad role about Governor Amosu. You mentioned it today that road was going to take some burial ground. I was a person. I was one of those who went to him. They were going to expand the road in front of my ancestral home. I wasn't against the expansion, but the burial spot of the man who brought Egbas to Abeokuta, Shodeke, was in that place. I said, sir, be careful because of generational problems you create. This is where Shodeke was buried. He brought us to Egba Kingdom. He's my ancestor. My families had called upon me and said, okay, Pastor, this is what we'll do. We'll go there physically to see. And he came. And when he saw, he said, this is what you will do. When we're expanding the road, we'll cut up to here, leave the burial ground, and move over there. So, man, you know David, you know Nehemiah was a builder. And one of the things that moved him was where his ancestors, David, was buried. So, I've told you what I did. I have no regret. Can I tell you one more thing I did? And then we can appreciate the fire she faced and how she came out of it, and how she's doing great things now that will still benefit Nigeria. I will vote. If you go into power anywhere, I'll be there, by God's grace, to speak favorably. You know, one of the things I did, it was during President Jonathan. As soon as he became the acting president before Yar'Adua died, there were bomb explosions in the whole of Bayelsa. Bah, bah, bah. I investigated. I discovered that the trigger was Alai Misha. So I went straight to the home of Alai Misha of blessed memory. At 8 p.m., we left there at 3 a.m. And he showed me that Yar'Adua was the one who asked him to plead guilty. Plea bargain. And he promised he will pardon him. He's the Governor General of Ijaw. The bomb blast will continue until he can get an assurance that will be pardoned. So I said, okay, pick me in the hotel. He drove himself to the hotel and picked me at 5 o'clock. Not, my hotel is not Airbnb. Can you imagine commissioners? We do not know the prices people pay. We just condemn everybody as rogues. Okay. He came and he picked me and we went to the president. It was his prayer time at 6 a.m. and we were able to speak to him. And he said, I said, this man is your father. He brought you to be his deputy governor. He's in this situation. This is the letter Yar'Adua wrote that he'll be pardoned. Will you pardon him? He said, I can't do it now until after the election. But I promise you that the moment I win the election, I will issue the pardon. Instantly, Alai Misha got up and went to Bayelsa. All the bomb explosions stopped. And I kept mute. So when he won, he issued the pardon. The press went to town. How can he pardon? And they came to Save Nigeria group to report to me. I didn't say a word. I said, we'll see it. We'll talk about it. So the day I presented my book, Intervention in Governance, Alai Misha was alive. I asked him to sit on the high table. I relayed this story that sometimes you do not know what roles are being played behind the scene to stabilize the country. That this was the role I played, and when you asked me questions, I didn't answer you. I wanted him to be here so that you see the reason why the bomb explosion stopped. Influence indeed is greater than power. And you started a new thing. I looked at what you went to. Is it correct to do? I'm going to advertise that personally and call people that will bless what you are doing. Shall we put our hands together for Mr. Adeosun? Am I privileged to ask you a question? What is the oldest profession in the world? Can anybody answer me? No, the oldest profession. No. 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 The general answer that you can find is prostitution. But do you know that corruption is older than prostitution? The Bible says in Genesis chapter 6 that the whole earth was corrupt and violence was everywhere. There's no place you see corruption, you not see violence. But the solution law among laws is a manifestation of the sons of God. You went in as a daughter of God and you made us proud. I'm very proud of you. I say that. And I pray there will be more people here. If she had not won that case in court, it will remain a stigma. And you'd know that people, I've faced opposition in my life and I will continue to. Is the terrain that I function better. Create trouble, I'll find solution. I want to thank you that you went in, you came out, and we cannot trace any 10 houses to your name and any deposit in foreign shore and anything. May the good Lord continue to bless you. May your tribe increase in our land. Thank you for honoring us and thank you for coming.
Of things that would like to unveil and speak to, as it were. So please, let's pay rapt attention, because trust me, you don't want to miss this part of the session. So I'd like to invite the Executive Director, Citadel School of Government, Mr. Omaholo Omakale, to come and give his presentation and unveil the first item.
Thank you so much again to our guest speaker, to the founder, and to everyone. For those online, I think this is particularly for you because leading up to this event, we got some requests. People wanting to be here, wanting to get crashed into the on-site attendance. I even got a request for someone asking if he could meet the former minister. The answer to that is that for you to have that distinguished access to this place, you need to become a participant. And so, and so this is meant to show you, first of all, some of the things you benefit by being a participant. And then after my session, my take you through that process that will be your first step to becoming a participant. Now, part of what we are doing, like I said when I spoke earlier, is that we offer the advanced diploma in public leadership and statecraft. So by reason of that, participants come here every Saturday and they receive lectures from the distinguished faculty from the University of Lagos Business School. That's a session, those are sessions that you don't want to miss. The academic rigor, the interactions, the case studies, those are sessions you don't want to miss. Now, to augment those academically heavy sessions, we have
what we call the mentorship program, which brings participants in close proximity to people who have served in government, from former governors to civil society leaders to appointees at the state level and leaders in the corporate sector. And so the aim of this session is to unveil those leaders, those mentors with whom our participants have been having fireside chats. And a couple of days from now, you're going to see online some of the experiences that our participants have been having, the very rich sessions they've been experiencing. So, yes, projected. So the first on the list, as you can see, is His Excellency Governor Obong Victor Atta, former governor of Akwa Ibom State. That should be about the mentor, not the mentee. Of course, you know Governor Obong Victor Atta. He was the former governor of Akwa Ibom State. He's an architect, has extensive experience in the private sector. And so what we did was that we analyzed our participants and we took them through a rigorous placement exercise by which we interviewed each participant, asked them very salient questions that we subjected to analysis. And after doing that, we placed them in what we call their spheres of governance. CSG has 7 spheres of governance, from policy craft and policy entrepreneurship to partisan politics to public administration to corporate governance to civic advocacy to rights activism and the likes. And you will see that as I take you through the profile of the mentor. That for the participants, and each participant came out of that experience with a primary sphere, a secondary sphere, and a tertiary sphere. Now, in order to ensure mentor-mentee matching, we took the mentors, except that we didn't interview them, but there's enough content about them that's publicly available. So we took that publicly available content, their achievements, the challenges they've surmounted, the things they've done, and we, in the end, emerged with primary, secondary, and tertiary spheres of governance for the mentors as well. And then we did what we called AI-assisted profile matching. But we didn't leave everything to AI, because no matter how good AI is, the human factor is essential. And so we critiqued what AI produced, and we made adjustments where necessary, and we paired mentor to mentee. And we've seen the experience so far. And one of the things that we've concluded is that the matching is very often like a match made in heaven. So, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, the mentees of Governor Obong Victor Atta met with him at 4 points. They hosted him, and they had a very interactive session with him. He stirred them up to the point that they are ready to run. When I say ready to run, they want to take Nigeria. And I believe you'll be hearing from them very soon, because there are things they are working on. And we will see, we believe that it will go somewhere. We will see where that gets to. And that is what CSG does. What we do is that we facilitate the creation of change initiatives. We are a school, and so you won't see us out there mobilizing people to do one thing or the other, but we build those who will do so. And like I was telling some of the participants the other day, we are benchmarked against Harvard Kennedy School. And what Harvard Kennedy School does is that it raises leaders. And if you look through the trajectory, I mean the history of American presidents, that school has produced the most number of presidents for the United States. And that's what we are targeting. Whether the presidency, with the governorship, the legislative houses, we expect that participants who emerge from here will go into those sectors. So that's the first mentor, Governor Obong Victor Atta. Please go to the next one. Yes, the second one on the list is His Excellency Governor Kayode Fayemi. Kayode Fayemi, of course, we know him. He is one of Nigeria's most intellectual political leaders. And interestingly, when we took him through this analysis, it turned out that his top three, the political dimension of him, actually became a quaternary profile, like his fourth sphere of governance. The first was entrepreneurship, public administration, then, of course, civic engagement. And you know, that civic engagement shouldn't take anyone by surprise. You know his history with NADECO and Kudirat Abiola Radio. Many people don't remember that, but that's part of his journey. He will soon be meeting with his mentees, but he started by inviting them to, not just them, but the entire class of the Advanced Diploma in Public Leadership and Statecraft. He started by inviting them to a lecture that he gave at King's College recently. But he will soon be meeting them. The next one, please. His Excellency Chief Olusegun Eshowa, former governor of Ogun State. Of course, he's a veteran politician. And this played out when he met with his mentees. I just sat down there watching them as they discussed the details, the complexities of Nigerian politics. He provided guidance, provided instructional advice to his mentees who are about to run for office, actually. Some of them are about to take that step to run for office. At least one of them is already a serving political leader, is a local government chairman. The others, there are appointees amongst them. There are those who've run for office before, and they are considering taking key steps in that direction. And his experience as a veteran politician and statesman came to bear as he provided guidance to them. The next one, please. Mr. Mike Igini. Mr. Mike Igini, we all know him. Here we call him the one who should have been INEC chairman of the reforms he has led. When you talk about reforms, he also is a reformer. And you know his trajectory, his achievements as the electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom State. And he's been on air speaking about that experience. He was here to meet with his mentees, and he began to download to us those complexities. And of course, his mentees were severely, seriously impacted. And just to announce that sometime in April, Mr. Mike Igini will be coming here to deliver a lecture on beating the system, preemptive and science of election rigging. So he'll be sharing from his experience as an INEC commissioner. The next one, please. Dr. Joe Dumaki. You all know him. You all know her as one of Nigeria's leading civil rights advocates. And of course, when we did the analysis, that was what came out as her primary sphere of influence. And those whose spheres of governance align in that direction were assigned to her. And of course, you already, if you've been following her social media handle, you will know that she's been posting those things online already. Her meetings with her mentees, the reaching emerged from those meetings, and the feedback from the mentees. So she too will be coming here In April as well, later in the month, we're still trying to fine-tune the logistics, speaking on the psychology of the oppressed and the oppressor. So look forward to that. The next one. Engineer Aramide Adeoye, she's a board member. She's actually supposed to be here, but she was here. Oh, she sat here. That's good. She's a board member, and she's someone who has a very rich experience. Served in the cabinet of the governor of Lagos State as special advisor to the governor on infrastructure. When we were about to launch one of our short courses, we embarked on research to be able to gather data that will enable us create that program with evidence. And so we had a semi-structured interview with her. And when she shared her experience as a cabinet member, it's one of such that you should not joke with. She's had meetings with her mentees already, and again, she will be coming here. We're still fine-tuning the logistics, but it's likely going to be this month as well to speak on the attitude and the aptitude of the exceptional public administrator, because that really speaks to her journey. The next one. Mr. Segun Olokiti is here. And as we know, he was former managing director of Wema Bank. He's chairman of Japol Gold and Ventures PLC. He had an initial meeting with his mentees, and the feedback I got was so amazing that some other persons were wishing they were his mentees. Where, for instance, they learned that he was going to take his mentees at some point to the golf course. And he shared his extensive experience with them. And the feedback I got from one of them was that she would never have asked for another mentor. And of course, like we said, we took it through, thank you, welcome back, founder. Thank you. We took it through a detailed analysis to be able to ensure that mentor-mentee pairing are like a match made in heaven. And so that's why when we got that feedback, we weren't surprised. She's someone, let me just give that case study. She's someone who's worked in the bank and wants to go further consulting for banks from her experience as a banker. And there was no better mentor than Mr. Segun Olokiti. Thank you. The next one. Professor Taiwo Ojo. He has run away. Where's Professor Taiwo? He went out. Professor Taiwo, he's one of the facilitators, and his experience as a facilitator is quite fascinating. The participants are so close to him, and they say that for the first semester, he was their favorite participant, and facilitator. And when we took the participants through that placement exercise, one of the things we asked them was, if you were in a position to choose who would mentor you, who would you choose? And quite a number of them chose Professor Taiwo Ojo. He, alongside Dr. Wura Abiola, were the facilitators that participants often chose as their preferred mentor amongst the facilitators. But Dr. Wura Abiola couldn't mentor. She has concluded her session, her course on strategic management in the public sector, but she couldn't play the role of a mentor. But Professor Taiwo accepted, and in his characteristic banner as a detailed, thorough, giving facilitator, he sent a framework and asked that it be delivered to all his mentees, that they should go through it, and that would guide the process of the mentorship engagement. And so That is ongoing, and we expect that even beyond the mentor-mentee interactions, that Professor Taiwo Ojo will continue to have relationship with not just his mentees, but with the other facilitators, because that's characteristic of Professor Taiwo Ojo. The next one. Mr. Clement Nwankwo, Executive Director, Policy and Legislative Advocacy Center. It's actually Legislative Advocacy Center. Mr. Kemi Adeosun is one of those civil society leaders who has driven change in Nigeria. From our findings, there are many legislative frameworks and bills that have passed through the National Assembly that he played a role either in sponsoring or in engaging legislators on and transforming them to acts. Bills like the Not Too Young to Run, such revolutionary as it were, active contributions to our governance space. And when we were looking for someone to mentor those who are inclined to the civic space with an inkling to jurisprudence and legislative governance, because you would realize, for those of us who know our participants, we have a justice of the High Court of Lagos State amongst us. And we have people like that who are engaged in things that are very sensitive. And we did not want to bring them into situations, someone like Justice Atinuke, we didn't want to bring someone like her into a situation where her high office as a judge is subjected to another arm of government. So we thought it would be wiser for someone who is operating in the third sector, who is a driver of reforms, to be her mentor. And that's why she, alongside people like her, who are champions of legislative change, were placed with Mr. Clement Nwankwo. And he has had interactions with his mentees. The feedback he gave us was that when he saw the profile, he realized that this wasn't just going to be a mentor-mentee relationship. This was going to be peer interaction, because because he realized that he was going to learn from them and share his experience with them as well. And that's the feedback we've got. He's been finding out from them the impact they've made, from one who's leading reforms in prisons across Nigeria to one who is a legal officer with Lagos State government, and that's not Justice Atinuke. That's a solicitor with Lagos State government. So people who play very sensitive roles are the ones assigned to Mr. Clement Nwankwo. The next one. Oh, Dr. Wura Abiola isn't mentoring. The next one. Right Honorable Lanre Laoshe, Chairman of Laoshe Group, former member and principal of the House of Representatives. Mr. Honorable Laoshe is a unique mentor. He's one who's ready to really pour himself out to his mentees. They've had 2 meetings. On 2 occasions, on the 2 occasions they met, he spent 5 hours with them. And he hosted them in his house, spent that length of time with them, and he's even prodded them in a certain direction. With the passing of a participant, Mr. Adenrele Onikosi, we set up a committee, and that committee is chaired by Dr. Theophilus Umezudike, who incidentally is a mentee of Honorable Lanre Laoshe. And we mandated them to come up with a legacy project that will mark this class, the pioneer class, as well as be in honor of the departed participant. But we didn't want to force that on them. We asked them to go through a certain process. We helped them conduct a poll that showed that about 93% of participants indicated that the legacy project will be in honor of Adenrele Onikosi. And so what they are leaning towards is a project that will drive reforms in the health sector, and they want to pass it on to the legislative arm. They were contemplating the Lagos State House of Assembly, but Honorable Lanre Laoshe, who is a former principal member of the Federal House of Representatives, bleated them and charged them to take it higher. And he says he will support that process of getting that legislative reform proposal to the National Assembly, such that the pioneer class, we look forward to that day, and that's what we're looking forward to, where they will stand before the National Assembly and present a health reform bill in honor of Mr. Adenrele Onikosi as a legacy project of the pioneer class. And we're grateful to Honorable Lanre Laoshe for facilitating that. He has a very interesting story. The next one. That's the last but not the least, definitely not the least. Yemi Adamolekun, former executive director, Enough is Enough. Yemi is, I call her a bridge between generations. She is one of a kind. Yemi Adamolekun is someone who doesn't even think of herself. She thinks, as it were, only of Nigeria, only of change. As it were, driving reforms, fighting the cause of the oppressed, and enlightening the minds of Nigerians. And some of us here have had the opportunity to relate to her in one capacity or the other. And so we reached out to her to be one of the mentors. And she's had interesting sessions with her mentees. And there was something that I knew she was going to do because she's a highly networked person. I knew she was going to connect her mentors to other persons of like passion. Interestingly, we had also reached out to a key driver of electoral reforms in Nigeria, Mr. Samson Itodo. But Samson Itodo could not assent. We didn't even get the response from his office. But when Yemi hosted her mentees at a function that Samson Itodo was, Yemi invited Samson Itodo, and together they mentored the mentees. So it's been a very interesting experience. And this is what you get, again, for those online, this is what you get when you become a participant Citadel School of Government. And very soon, we'll be rolling out applications. And that's what my colleague, I'll call her now, to come speak to, our academic liaison and capacity officer, Ms. Clementina Odetola. She will tell you what to do to become a participant. Thank you.
Director, sir. Before she comes, I want to thank those who supported Honorable Lanre Laoshe. Despite what he has gone through, is still willing to give more to Nigeria. He's my dearest aburo. That's not to denigrate him. He was one of the deacons in our church who went to the House of Rep and served so well. What you are enjoying today in financial reforms, what's Jim Obasi's financial reform? He was the one who pushed the bill through. He pushed it through before they located Jim Obasi to come and serve. If you are not willing to pay the price for change, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Because it will take people who are willing to lay down their lives, like Omo. We had to pray and fast for Omo to marry. Oh yes. And we had to pray and fast for Omo to think of having a baby. You know, Yemi Adamolekun has not even thought of marriage. If this thing enters into you, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you have no other life. I encourage you, make up your mind before you leave here that you'll be part of solution providers, not part of the problem. Amen? Thank you.
Yes, before Clementina comes up, I also want to specially thank the founder because, first of all, we can't believe about the fact that but for him, we wouldn't even be here. That's even the first thing. Without him, we wouldn't be here. For catching the vision, for charging us with that vision, for mandating us, and for supporting us. And when we came up with the mentorship initiative, I remember while we were planning one of those sessions that I had with him in his residence. I will go there and show him slides and all of the while we're looking forward to this. That was the first time I mooted that idea, and he was so excited about it, and he expressed his willingness that will be done. And so when we were ready, I went to him, and he readily gave us access to his contacts. Those high-level, His Excellencies, and they are his contacts. He gave us his contacts, and when we reached out to them, they were willing, but because they're very busy people, sometimes they don't even respond to you. And I will still go back to the founder and I'll say, sir, please call them. I'll be here by you while you are calling them. I'll be taking note of what they are saying so that I'll know the state of things here. And he gladly obliged us, and he went all the way for us. So I want you to please give him a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Please beg or more. That is the executive director, not me. And he's running this thing very, very effectively with his team. I'm not the executive director. And one of these days, I will also resign as being the chairman. I've told them, I'm not going to die in office. I have better things to do. Better things. Church is a better thing, but there are also better things. So, Omo, face your business. Whatever I can do to help you, I will do, but don't make it my goal. I would like to introduce the gentleman sitting next to us. I invited him to come and listen to Mrs. Adeosun. He's honorable. He's been in the house of this, house of that himself, Honorable Mose. And he was the vice chairman Southwest for CPC. Now, let me say how we came together. I didn't know Buhari. I didn't know him either. He's been working with Buhari as his vice chairman for Southwest. My Egmo, Chief S.K. Onofoko, or Ashiraji Onofoko, happened to be his friend, close friend. He worked several years before he retired with UBA. He was one of those who set up their, what do you call, IT. My Egmo's wife lost, or the father died. So I had to attend the function. How they sat me next to this strange man, I don't know. I was not thinking politics. I just sat down there and, good afternoon, sir. I would respectfully greet people. And I said, good afternoon. Don't you think it would be a good idea for Buhari Bakari ticket? We were meeting for the first time in life. And I looked at him and said, Buhari Bakari ticket, well with me. He was right there at the party. And he had stayed close from that day to today. And I always like to listen to him and his word of advice and counsel. And one of the days that we have opportunity, we'll bring such people to tell you the challenges they had faced in wanting to see a new Nigeria, the price they had to pay, the heartbreaks and the disappointment when those things would not go the way they had figured it out, and their willingness not to sell out. So I asked him to come. I invited him. I said, come and listen to Kemi Adeosun. Until you have gone in and you are out. I've told you before, I will never beat my chest that I will succeed in government until I've gone and I return and I've succeeded. I will never beat my chest. You do not know what they face. Do you know what Buhari calls civil service? Evil service. They've packaged it, they've done everything before you get there, and they put the file in front of you and say, sign. I remember one day the ADC of Buhari called me and says, come to Abuja, come to Abuja, come to... And I said, what is the matter, ADC? Come and take an office here. Please, you'll be able to help him. He said one day, after they have put a file before him, he knew what was in the file. Buhari was going to sign. He jumped in and said, attention, sir. What is security matter, sir? Okay, say it. He said, no, I'd like to say it alone, sir. And he said, don't sign. Because at that age, how many pages are you going to read? Do you mind if I ask him to greet you? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Pastor has said it all, but I'm very, very impressed that this kind of setup is in existence. Why I'm impressed is that this country needs positive change, and we are phasing out. So to avoid vacuum, I think that's the genesis of the creation of this center. And it's our hope in a lifetime, as you usually say, Nigeria will be work. And then Nigeria will be able to get rid of bad leadership. Because that is the problem we have in this country. So I'm appreciative of this. I think also I will try as much as possible to be here, to give some inputs as to what I've gone through politically, professionally, so that the younger ones who are going to take over from us will be able to gain from my experience. So you're all welcome.
I'm sure you don't know his age. I will let him tell you in future. Do you know my age? He's much, much older. He's closer to 80 than 78.
Please, a round of applause one more time. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. I just learned something. When you don't want to say something, you just give people clues. It's closer to 80 than 70. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We can work it out. So, Mr. Chair did say something during his session with us. He said, history is lived forward, but it is written in retrospect. He also shared that there are 3 pillars when it comes to governance. Number 1 is family, we have the government, we have the church. He spoke about the 7 attributes. I'm not going to share that with you. If you want to listen, join the school. And he also spoke about the 4 Ps that makes the state of the nation. And one of it is its people. I would ask us a question, and please, I want us to respond. When you see the color green, white, green, what comes to your mind? Exactly. So with that in mind, This is me standing in the capacity of the academic liaison and capacity building officer at the Citadel School of Government to not just invite you, but for what is worth, to share that this school actually does exist. Personally, the very first time I saw the flyer of the school, I did apply. Not to serve as a member of the team, but to be a part of the school, because for us to change the nation, I realized from what Mrs. Kemi said that it's no longer about the values we uphold, but the institutions we are willing to build. Such that after you've had your values, you are in a system that amplifies your values for the good of a greater number. So online, on site, I want to officially invite you to visit our website, which is www.citadelschoolofgovernment.org. On the menu there, you're going to find a place to apply. Once you click it, there is an expression of interest form. You would leave your details with us and we would happily reach out to you when the next cohort is starting. One of the things that we've done with this cohort is to understand what the scheme is going to look like. And for everybody that has told us, oh, I don't stay in Lagos, we are happy to announce to you that we're not just going to be on site for the subsequent cohorts, we are also going to be online. And with the generosity of our Mr. Chair, you would have seen the amount that accrues to this cost. It's still going to be very subsidized, but you are only going to be able to take advantage of that if and only if you show interest upfront. With that, my name is Clementina Busayo Odetola, and I hope that together with us, you're going to work to spread the word about the Citadel School of Government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime I come, please accommodate my intrusion. I don't come here often. I wish I could come regularly, but my workload, Dr. Imisedeke, doesn't want to start giving me injection again. Mrs. Adeosun, can I have a gas pack or my pack? Thank you. She left this for us. She didn't want to advertise anything. And she gave us these gifts on the way. I just need the name of the organization. NIDA City. N-I.D-A-C-I-T-Y.
NIDA City.
NIDA City.
Yes, NIDA City. Nigerian Audacity.
Nigeria?
Audacity. NIDA City.
Kai. Nigeria Audacity. Motibo. You can go to their website. There is a question, whatever it is, a survey there that is she's working on, and she wants you to respond and refer other people to respond to it. What they're doing is a bridge builder. She's looking for opportunities for young pioneers assisted to reach their goal. She had to go to Akure to interview someone. She sent it to me privately, said for your eyes only. It will soon be public. You'll see what she's doing to ensure that Nigerians who are not doing drugs, who are not into crime, who are not to any illegal activity, are helped to maximize their potentials and to reach their goal. So, since you know about NIDA City, take advantage of it, fill the form, the survey, and let us help her so that she can help those who really need the required assistance to get to where they're going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, let's not forget to fill the survey, the Nidacity survey, and share with entrepreneurs, because at least from what I know about Nidacity, it's an initiative that was found by Mrs. Kemi Adeosun to empower entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, audacious young entrepreneurs. That's where the name Nidacity, Nigerian Audacity, originates from, sir. So we're almost rounding off, but I don't know. I would still like us for a few minutes just to still engage in dialogue, as it were, just for a few minutes, and then we'll have the vote of thanks and close. But for a few, okay.